Tonight, before the first light touches the hills of Attica, you are waking in Athens in the year 430 BC. Above the sleeping city, the Acropolis rises into the dark blue sky. Its temples are still shadowed. Its stone steps are cool. And far below, bakers are preparing bread. Potters are opening their workshops. Farmers are walking toward the city gates. And sailors are getting small boats across the quiet waters of the Piraeus. This is not the Athens of marble statues alone. It is a living city. A city of markets, courtyards, workshops, theaters, temples, soldiers, philosophers, servants, children, and ordinary families, beginning another day beneath the eyes of the gods. Stay with me and experience one peaceful morning inside ancient Athens. The night is still. A faint wind moves down from the surrounding hills and passes through narrow streets built from stone, mud brick, timber, and plaster. Most houses are closed to the road. Their walls are plain from the outside. A stranger walking past them would not easily know who lives within. Athens keeps much of its private life hidden behind simple doors. Behind those doors are courtyards, small rooms, storage jars, cooking spaces, looms, family shrines, oil lamps burning low before dawn. The city has not yet become loud. Only a few sounds move through the darkness. A dog barking somewhere near an alley. A cart wheel turning over uneven stone. The quiet footsteps of someone carrying water. The distant call of a night watchman. And above everything, the silent shape of the Acropolis. You stand near the lower slopes, where the rock rises steeply above the city. In the darkness, the temples above appear almost unreal. Their columns are pale against the sky. The great buildings are still relatively new. Athens has spent years transforming its sacred hill into a symbol of power, devotion, wealth, and beauty. But at this hour, before priests, citizens, visitors, and workers fill the paths, the Acropolis feels calm, almost asleep. The first hint of dawn appears in the east. Not light yet, only a soft change in the sky. The stars begin fading. The city remains blue and silver. You begin walking downhill. The street beneath your feet is narrow. Its surface is uneven, worn by sandals, animals, carts, rainwater, and years of daily movement. On either side, houses press close together. Some have upper rooms built partly from timber. Others are low and modest. The smell of dust, olive oil, smoke, and animals rests in the cool air. At one doorway, a woman has already opened the house. She steps outside, carrying a small clay vessel. Her hair is tied back. Her tunic is simple. She pours water near the threshold to settle the dust, then sweeps with a bundle of twigs. The motion is steady. She does not hurry. Soon the household will wake. Bread must be prepared. Children watched. Clothing repaired. Water carried. Wool worked. Food bought or arranged. In ancient Athens, much of a household's survival depends upon labor that rarely appears in public speeches or heroic stories. The city is remembered for philosophers, generals, playwrights, and statesmen. But every morning begins with hands like hers. She finishes sweeping and pauses to look toward the sky. The light is growing. Inside the house, someone coughs. A child turns in sleep. The woman goes back inside. A little farther along, smoke rises from a baker oven. The bakery is small, built into the front of a house or workshop. A clay oven glows in the darkness. The baker has been awake for some time. He kneads dough upon a wooden surface dusted with flour. Beside him, an assistant shapes small loaves. Some are round, others flatter, easier to carry and eat during work. Grain is precious. Bread is never treated casually. A poor harvest can change the mood of the entire city. A delayed shipment can raise prices. A household without enough grain must stretch every meal. The baker understands this. His work is ordinary, but necessary. He places the first loaves near the heat. The smell begins to fill the street. Warm, simple, comforting. A man carrying a basket stops outside the doorway. He is one of the first customers. Perhaps a laborer. Perhaps a servant sent by a household before the morning crowd. He buys bread and wraps it inside cloth. No long conversation is needed. The same purchase has happened many times before. The baker removes another loaf from the oven. Steam rises into the blue dawn. The city is beginning to breathe. You continue downward. The sky above the eastern hills turns pale gold. Athens slowly reveals itself. Rooftops, courtyards, narrow passages, small shrines at street corners, workshops with half-open shutters, olive trees beyond the houses, the dark mass of the Acropolis behind you, and farther away, the road leading toward the Agora. The Agora is the heart of public Athens, a market, a meeting place, a political space, a place for arguments, trade, gossip, lawsuits, philosophy, ceremony, and daily errands. But before you reach it, you pass through streets where the private city awakens. A water carrier moves ahead of you. 2 jars hang from a wooden frame across his shoulders. The weight pulls his body slightly forward. Water must be brought from fountains, wells, or cisterns. Some households have access close by. Others depend upon long walks. The carrier's sandals make soft sounds against the stone. He stops near a public fountain house where several women and servants have gathered. The line is small now. Later it will grow. Water is drawn, poured, balanced. A young girl holds a jar too large for her. An older woman adjusts the cloth ring upon the girl's head. The jar is lifted carefully. The girl takes several steps. The vessel wobbles. She freezes. The older woman places one hand against it. The jar becomes steady. The girl continues. Learning household work begins early. Not through speeches, through repetition, through correction, through the quiet expectation that one day she will know what to do without being told. Near the fountain, 2 men speak softly about the news. A ship has arrived from the islands. A court case will be heard later. A public assembly may be called soon. Athens is a city where ordinary citizens participate in political life, but that participation belongs only to certain men. Women, enslaved people, foreigners, and many residents of the city live under its decisions without holding the same voice in making them. The famous democracy of Athens is real, but it is not equal for everyone. Even at dawn, that truth is present. One man adjusts his cloak. He will go to the Agora later to hear what is being discussed. The women at the fountain continue filling jars. The city's public ideals and private labor exist side by side. You leave the fountain and walk toward the potter's district. The ground becomes dustier. The smells change. Clay, smoke, ash, damp earths. This area is connected with the making of vessels used across the city and beyond it. Storage jars, oil containers, wine cups, water jugs, cooking pots, lamps, decorated vases. Some are simple household objects. Others are painted with scenes of gods, heroes, athletes, musicians, weddings, battles, banquets, and myths. Athens sends its pottery far beyond its walls. A beautiful cup made here may travel across the sea and end up in a home, tomb, or sanctuary in another land. Inside one workshop, a potter sits at his wheel. The light is still dim, but he has begun. His hands press a lump of clay into the center. The wheel turns. The clay rises. His fingers shape it from within and without. A jar begins to appear. At first, the form is rough. Then the neck narrows. The shoulder expands. The walls become even. The potter does not force the clay too quickly. He listens through his hands. Too much pressure, and the vessel collapses. Too little, and it remains heavy. An apprentice watches closely. He carries water, prepares clay, cleans tools, moves finished pieces to dry. Only slowly will he be trusted with the wheel. A nearby table holds vessels that have already dried enough for painting. A painter sits beside them with a fine brush. He is adding black figures onto a pale surface. A line becomes an arm. A curve becomes a shield. A small detail becomes the eye of a horse. The work requires patience. A careless mark cannot simply be erased. The painter pauses before adding a final line to a warrior's cloak. His brush hovers, then touches the clay. The line is clean. The vessel is set aside. Later, it will enter the kiln, where fire will decide whether the work survives. The kiln is the final judge. A pot may be well-shaped, beautifully painted, carefully dried, and still crack or discolor in the firing. The potter can control much, but not everything. Fire keeps some mystery for itself. You continue toward a wider road. Farmers and sellers are entering the city from the countryside. One man leads a donkey carrying baskets of figs and onions. Another carries bundles of herbs. A woman walks with a small group, bringing wool and eggs. Their clothing is dusty from the road. They have traveled before sunrise to reach the market early. The countryside around Athens is not always generous. The land of Attica can be dry and stony. Olives, grapes, figs, barley, goats, and sheep are important parts of life. Large fields of grain are harder to depend upon. Athens often looks outward to the sea for supplies. Its power is tied not only to its citizens, but to ships, allies, tribute, and trade. A farmer stops near a roadside shrine. He touches the stone gently, perhaps a prayer for good sales, perhaps a simple habit. Then he continues. The day's income may depend on the freshness of his produce and the mood of customers in the agora. The city gates are now more active. Travelers enter. Servants leave. Pack animals shift beneath loads. A guard watches the movement with a practiced eye. Athens is not a quiet village. It is a city shaped by war, politics, empire, trade, and pride. The Peloponnesian War has already changed the Greek world. Sparta and Athens stand against each other. Many people from the countryside have taken refuge within the city walls during periods of danger. The streets can become crowded beyond comfort. Fear of disease, hunger, and conflict lies beneath daily life. But this morning, the city continues. Bread is baked. Water is carried. Clay is shaped. Children wake. The sun rises. Human life rarely waits for history to become peaceful. Ahead, the road opens toward the agora. Before entering, you pass a small home with its courtyard door open. Inside, a family has begun the morning meal. A low table holds bread, olives, figs, and a little cheese. A man prepares to leave. A woman gives instructions to an older child. A younger child plays with a small clay animal on the floor. An enslaved servant grinds grain or prepares another task in the corner. The scene is calm, but it contains the social structure of the city. Some people belong to the household through family, others through ownership. The freedom celebrated in public Athens is supported by people who are not free. To understand the city fully, you must see both its beauty and its inequality. The man lifts a piece of bread. He dips it into oil. Eats quickly. He may have business in the agora. Perhaps he will meet friends, hear a lawsuit, discuss politics, or purchase materials. The woman remains inside the household space. Her work is no less important, but it is less visible in the public life of Athens. The child asks a question about the Acropolis. The father answers briefly. He is late. The household door closes behind him. The public city receives him. The private city continues without him. You move onward. The sun finally touches the upper columns of the Acropolis. For a moment, the stone glows. Warm gold against the fading blue sky. The Parthenon stands above the city, dedicated to Athene, the goddess who protects Athens. Its presence is more than religious. It is political, artistic, civic, a statement of what the Athenians believe their city represents. Order, power, victory, devotion, beauty. But below the sacred hill, the ordinary streets remain crowded, dusty, and alive. A boy carries a message. A dog follows a food seller. A man argues over the price of oil. A woman calls from a doorway. A cart becomes stuck near a corner. Two people help move it. Someone laughs. Someone complains. The city is not marble silence. It is noise, labor, need, ambition, worship, and habit. You approach the agora from the east. The space opens slowly. First, a wider street. Then a glimpse of colonnades. Then scattered stalls. Then people gathering beneath the growing light. The market is not fully crowded yet, but it is beginning. Merchants arrange baskets of olives, fish, onions, figs, garlic, cheese, pottery, wool, sandals, oil lamps, and tools. Craftsmen carry finished goods from workshops. Customers inspect everything carefully. Food spoils. Cloth can be stretched. Oil can be watered down. Weights can be dishonest. Trust matters, but inspection matters more. A fish seller sets out his morning catch. The smell rises quickly. Several customers arrive at once. Fish is popular, but freshness changes fast in the heat. A woman points to one fish and asks when it was caught. The seller answers confidently. She does not believe him immediately. She examines the eyes, the gills, the firmness. Only then does negotiation begin. Near the fish seller, an olive merchant pours oil into a small vessel for a customer. The oil catches the sunlight. Gold green, thick, valuable. Olive oil is used for cooking, lamps, athletics, bathing, medicine, and religious offerings. It belongs to every part of Greek life. The customer smells it, dips a finger, tastes. The merchant waits. Good oil speaks for itself, but price still requires conversation. You walk beneath a shaded colonnade at the edge of the agora. Here, men are already gathering to talk. Some discuss trade, others politics. A few simply enjoy being seen. Athens is a city of speech. Words carry unusual power here. A citizen who can speak well may influence a crowd. A lawyer may persuade a jury. A playwright may move an audience. A philosopher may challenge assumptions in public conversation. Speech can build reputation and destroy it. Near a column, an older man asks a younger one a question. The younger man answers quickly. The older man smiles, then asks another. The second question is harder. A small group begins to listen. Perhaps this is only a casual conversation. Perhaps it is the beginning of a philosophical exchange. In Athens, a question can become a public event. The older man does not lecture. He presses. What is courage? What is justice? Can a person be wise without knowing himself? The younger man laughs at first, then becomes serious. The group grows. A passerby stops with bread still in his hand. No one writes anything down. The words exist only in the moment, unless someone remembers them later. The market continues around them. A donkey brays. A merchant shouts. A customer complains. The philosopher continues asking questions. Athens holds the ordinary and the extraordinary in the same square. A public official walks through the agora with assistants. They check measures and order. They watch the placement of stalls. They listen to disputes that begin as arguments over price and can grow into formal complaints. The market must remain functional. Crowds can become chaotic. Rules give shape to exchange. At one stall, a customer accuses a seller of using a false measure for grain. The official compares it with a standard. The seller insists it is correct. The measure is filled, leveled, and checked. The difference is small, but not invisible. A warning is given. The seller looks annoyed but says nothing. The customers nearby watch carefully. Markets are built on repetition. If one person cheats too freely, everyone becomes suspicious. You move farther into the agora. On one side, a group of men discuss the war. Their voices are low. News from distant fronts arrives unevenly. Rumors travel faster than confirmed reports. A ship seen near the coast. A town changing allegiance. A speech expected from an important leader. A tax or tribute dispute among allies. Athens depends upon its navy and its empire. The city's wealth has built temples and supported public festivals. But power creates enemies. Even in a peaceful morning scene, war remains present. A man with a scar across his cheek listens without speaking. He has heard enough speculation. Perhaps he has fought. Perhaps someone close to him has died. The others continue. Public life allows many voices, but not every experience becomes speech. A little farther away, a teacher guides several boys through the edge of the agora. They carry wax tablets and styluses. Their lesson may include letters, music, poetry, arithmetic, and moral instruction. Education belongs mainly to boys from families able to afford it. The teacher stops briefly and points toward a public building. He explains its function. The boys listen with varying attention. One is fascinated. Another watches a dog sleeping beneath a stall. The teacher notices and asks him to repeat the explanation. The boy cannot. The others laugh. The teacher does not. He taps the wax tablet. The boy looks down. Learning in Athens can be stern. The city values memory, discipline, music, poetry, physical training, and speech. A boy may one day stand before citizens and argue for a course of action. His public voice begins with lessons like this. You step away from the crowd and look back toward the Acropolis. Now the temples are fully visible above the city. The morning sun touches their columns and sculpted forms. Below them, the agora grows louder. This is the contrast at the heart of Athens. Sacred height and crowded marketplace. Marble and dust. Public ideals and private labor. Philosophy and bargaining. Democracy and exclusion. Beauty and war. The city is complicated and alive. You find a place beneath the shade of an olive tree near the edge of the square. A vendor sells small cups of diluted wine. Another offers bread with olives. You sit for a moment and watch the morning unfold. A potter delivers painted vessels to a merchant. A farmer empties figs into a basket. A citizen hurries toward a meeting. A woman sends a servant to purchase oil. A foreign trader asks directions in accented Greek. A child drops a piece of bread and quickly picks it up before a dog reaches it. No single moment explains Athens. But together, these small movements reveal the city more honestly than any monument alone. The sun rises higher. The shadows shorten. The day has truly begun. Beyond the agora, roads lead toward workshops, temples, law courts, gymnasia, theaters, and the busy harbor of Piraeus. The city will speak, trade, worship, argue, perform, and remember. And you will follow it. One quiet step at a time, the agora grows louder as the morning deepens. What began as a few baskets beneath the dawn has become a living center of movement. The sun now rests above the rooftops. Its light strikes the pale stone of colonnades, the dusty ground between stalls, and the bronze fittings on carts and tools. A thin haze rises from the square. Dust from sandals, smoke from small cooking fires, steam from warm bread. The smell of fish, olives, oil, wool, clay, sweat, and herbs moves through the air. Athens is awake now. Not gently, not completely peacefully, but with the restless energy of a city that believes its words, laws, ships, gods, and citizens matter to the world. You remain at the edge of the agora, watching the morning gather itself. The space is not perfectly ordered. It is not a clean marble square like a painting. It is practical, crowded, dusty, alive. Wooden stalls stand beside stone buildings. Animals pass between citizens and sellers. Servants carry baskets. Children follow their fathers. Foreign merchants ask questions in accented Greek. A man argues about the quality of oil. Another complains that a fish seller has hidden the older fish beneath the fresh ones. Somewhere nearby, a rooster calls much too late, as if it has only just understood that morning has arrived. The agora is the stomach, mouth, and memory of Athens. It feeds the city. It gives the city a place to speak. And it preserves the daily habits through which public life becomes visible. You walk past a row of food sellers. A woman sits behind baskets filled with figs. Some are soft and dark, others still firm. She arranges the best fruit at the front, where the sunlight touches them. A customer lifts one, turns it in his fingers. The seller watches him closely. He asks the price. She gives it. He lowers his eyebrows as if the number has personally wounded him. She does not move. He offers less. She shakes her head. He places the fig back and begins to leave. She calls after him. Not the price he wanted. Not the price she first named. A middle place. He returns. The exchange is completed. Neither smiles too much. In markets, victory should never be shown too clearly. Beside her, another seller displays olives in shallow bowls. Green, black, wrinkled, glossy with oil. Some are mixed with herbs, others plain. A laborer buys a small portion and a piece of bread. He stands in the shade to eat. His meal is brief. Bread, olives, perhaps a little cheese. Enough to continue working. Across the path, a wealthier man examines a jar of oil. He is not buying for immediate hunger. He is buying for a household. Oil will be used in cooking, in lamps, after exercise, in religious offerings, to soften skin, to clean the body when mixed with scraping and bathing. Olive oil belongs everywhere in Greek life. The seller pours a small amount into a little cup. The buyer smells it, touches it, tastes. Good oil should carry the character of the olives and the land. Too bitter and it may be unpleasant. Too thin and it may have been mixed. Too old and the smell will reveal it. The buyer asks where it was pressed. The seller answers quickly. The buyer asks again in a different way. The seller answers almost the same. Almost. The buyer notices. The negotiation becomes sharper. You continue. A fish seller has drawn a larger crowd. The fish lie upon damp leaves and woven trays. Some still shine. Others already look less fresh beneath the warming air. Fish can be valuable in Athens, especially when good catches arrive from the sea. The seller lifts one by the tail. Its silver body bends in the light. A customer asks whether it came from the Piraeus this morning. The seller swears it did. Another customer laughs softly. The seller glares. The argument becomes entertainment for the people nearby. The customer touches the gills and shakes his head. The price must fall. The seller protests. The crowd listens. A second customer quietly purchases a smaller fish while attention is elsewhere. The seller notices too late. He has won one argument and perhaps lost another. The agora rewards people who can speak, but also people who can wait. A little farther on, a meat seller stands beside hanging cuts of goat and sheep. Meat is not eaten every day by every household. Sacrifices, festivals, and special occasions bring more of it into the diet. For many people, meals are built more often around bread, barley, olives, figs, vegetables, cheese, fish when available, and wine mixed with water. Still, the smell of cooking meat attracts attention. A small skewer turns above charcoal. Fat falls into the fire and rises as smoke. A boy stops to stare. His mother pulls him onward. The boy looks back until the crowd hides the stall. You pass into the section where craftsmen sell smaller goods. Sandals, belts, knives, oil lamps, needles, bronze mirrors, clay cups, simple figurines. A leatherworker repairs a strap for a man who must leave the city later in the day. The repair is quick but careful. A broken strap on the road can become more than an inconvenience. A lamp seller demonstrates a small clay lamp by adding oil and lighting the wick. The flame is steady. A customer bends close to check the shape of the spout. A lamp must burn evenly. Too much oil and it smokes. Too narrow a wick and the light is weak. too wide, and it consumes fuel too quickly. Ordinary objects contain practical knowledge gathered across generations. A woman buys 2 lamps, one for the household, one perhaps as a gift. The seller wraps them inside cloth. A small thing, meant to hold darkness away. You move toward the potters who have carried finished vessels from the Keramakos. Their stall is more colorful than many around it. Cups painted with black figures, amphorae with elegant shoulders, small oil flasks, mixing bowls, plain storage jars. Not every vessel is made for beauty. Some are meant only to hold grain, oil, wine, water, or leftovers. Others are shaped and painted for banquets, offerings, weddings, grave, or trade. A young man examines a drinking cup. Inside, painted at the bottom, a small scene is hidden. It will appear only when the wine is finished. He laughs and shows his friend. The merchant smiles. A clever image can sell a cup. At another table, a woman selects a plain water jar. She checks the handle, the rim, the base. She taps it lightly and listens. A crack will speak through sound. The jar is good. She asks the price anyway. No object enters a household without negotiation. Behind the pottery stall, several large storage jars stand upright in a row. Their size makes them difficult to move. 2 workers use rope and a wooden pole to carry one between them. They coordinate each step. If the jar slips, it will shatter. If it shatters, the loss belongs to someone. Responsibility is often as heavy as the object itself. You continue beneath a stoa, a long covered walkway where shade gathers beneath columns. Here, men stand in small groups, speaking in the manner of people who believe conversation is an essential part of life. Some are merchants, some citizens waiting for public business, some older men who enjoy listening more than working, some younger men hoping to be noticed by those with greater reputation. A stoa is shelter, but also a stage. To speak well here can build a name. To speak foolishly can do the same, but in a different way. Near one column, a man explains a legal dispute to 2 friends. He gestures with his whole body. His neighbor has failed to repay a debt. Or perhaps a boundary wall has been built too far across shared land. The details shift depending on which part of the story he emphasizes. His friends listen. One gives advice. Another asks whether witnesses exist. In Athens, many disputes depend upon public speech. A citizen may have to stand before a jury and present his own case. He may use a speech prepared by someone skilled with words. But the voice heard in court is often his. Law requires memory, confidence, emotion, facts, reputation, and timing. Justice is not silent. It must be performed. A little farther away, a public notice has been posted. Several citizens gather around it. One reads aloud for the benefit of others. The words concern a meeting, a decision, or an official matter related to the city. Athens uses writing, but it also remains a culture of hearing. Announcements are read, speeches delivered, poems performed, laws discussed, news repeated. A man who cannot read may still participate in public knowledge through listening. But listening depends on access, time, status, freedom. A farmer who must sell produce before it spoils cannot remain for every debate. A woman managing a household hears politics through fathers, husbands, sons, servants, rumors, and neighbors. An enslaved man may carry messages about decisions he had no power to make. The city speaks loudly. But not everyone has the same place within its conversation. You leave the shaded walkway and cross toward a building where public officials are entering. Athens is governed through a complex arrangement of assemblies, councils, magistrates, courts, and temporary offices. The system is designed to distribute authority among citizens and prevent one man from holding too much power for too long. Many offices are held briefly. Some are chosen by lot, others by election. Citizens can praise the system as freedom. Enemies can call it unstable. Both may find evidence. A clerk carries tablets and rolls of writing. Another man holds small objects used in the administration of public business. Several citizens wait nearby, hoping to speak with someone inside. One has a complaint about taxes, another about military service, another about a trade agreement. The work of democracy is not only speeches beneath the open sky. It is also records, payments, lists, names, questions, arguments in rooms where people grow tired. A city that speaks of freedom must still count grain, assign duties, maintain ships, pay workers, repair walls, and settle disputes between stubborn neighbors. Public ideals eventually become paperwork. You walk toward the law court area. The crowd here feels different, more intense. Men stand with witnesses, relatives, supporters, and opponents. Some rehearse arguments quietly. Others speak too loudly, perhaps to show confidence they do not fully feel. A man with a trimmed beard walks back and forth, repeating a sentence until it sounds natural. Another sits silently, looking at the ground. Court cases can involve money, property, inheritance, injury, citizenship, contracts, public duties, or accusations that threaten a man's reputation and future. The juries may be large. The speeches timed. Emotion matters. Evidence matters. Character matters. A speaker must not only prove what happened. He must persuade the listeners that he is the sort of person they should believe. A young man stands beside his father. The father is giving final advice. Speak clearly. Do not rush. Do not insult the jury. Mention the witnesses before the opponent questions them. The young man nods too quickly. His mouth is dry. He has likely repeated the speech many times. Now the real moment approaches. The father adjusts the fold of his cloak. A small gesture, tender but controlled. Public life leaves little room for visible fear. Inside the court, voices begin. The people waiting outside quiet themselves. A slave carries water past the entrance, ignored by most of the men gathered there. Yet enslaved labor supports nearly everything around them. Homes, workshops, mines, ships, public projects, private comfort. Some enslaved people perform brutal labor. Others work inside households, businesses, or even skilled occupations. Their lives vary, but none possess the full freedom celebrated in Athenian political speech. The contradiction is not hidden from the city. It is simply accepted by most of those who benefit from it. You step away from the courts and return toward the open center of the agora. The crowd has grown. A group of citizens is discussing whether they should walk toward the Pnyx later, where the assembly meets. The Pnyx lies on a hill west of the Acropolis. There, male citizens gather to debate and vote on matters affecting the city. War, peace, alliances, finance, public works, the conduct of officials. The future of Athens can be shaped by speeches delivered before a crowd standing beneath the sky. One man says he will attend. Another says the matter is already decided by the influential speakers. A third objects. Nothing is decided until the citizens vote. A fourth asks whether the speakers ever suffer equally when their advice goes badly. The group becomes louder. No one leaves. Argument is part of participation. A foreign resident, a metic, stands nearby listening. He may live in Athens for years, pay taxes, serve in certain military roles, trade, raise a family, contribute to the city's wealth. But he does not possess the same political rights as a citizen. His face reveals nothing. Perhaps he is used to hearing debates from which he is excluded. Perhaps he has learned to influence matters through business, friendship, or patronage rather than formal vote. Athens is open to the world in trade and culture, but carefully guarded in citizenship. Near the center of the agora, a small group gathers around a public sacrifice. An animal has been brought to an altar. The ceremony is not grand. It is ordinary. Religion in Athens is woven into civic life, family life, public festivals, agriculture, war, theater, politics, and the calendar. The gods are not distant decorations. They are part of the way the city understands success, danger, obligation, and gratitude. A priest or official performs the ritual carefully. Water, barley, prayer, a moment of silence. The people nearby lower their voices. The animal shifts. The ritual continues. The sacrifice is part offering, part community act, part meal, part reminder that human life exists beneath divine attention. Afterward, portions will be distributed according to custom. The smell of smoke rises. For a moment, the marketplace becomes sacred space. Then commerce slowly returns around it. This is Athens. The sacred and practical sharing the same ground. You continue toward the statues and monuments scattered through the agora. Some honor gods, others heroes. Some commemorate victories. Some remind citizens of laws, ancestors, and public identity. A young boy asks his teacher who one statue represents. The teacher explains. The boy asks whether the man was truly as brave as people say. The teacher pauses. Perhaps, or perhaps the city needs him to be remembered that way. The boy frowns. Memory is not always the same as history. The teacher smiles slightly. This question, at least, has pleased him. They continue walking. A group of older men sits nearby discussing the theater. A new play is being prepared. Or perhaps one recently performed is being judged in conversation long after the festival has ended. Athenians take drama seriously. Tragedy and comedy are not only entertainment. They are public reflection. Through myth, suffering, laughter, insult, and song, the city examines itself. Kings from legend, heroes from old stories, foolish citizens, ambitious leaders, gods who punish, families destroyed by pride, choruses speaking grief and warning. The theater gives Athens another way to think aloud. One man praises the poet's language. Another complains that the chorus was too long. A third says the comedy went too far in mocking a public figure. The others laugh. In Athens, going too far is often exactly the point. You sit briefly at the edge of the square. A vendor offers you bread with a few olives and a cup of diluted wine. The wine is mixed with water, as is customary. Drinking unmixed wine is often viewed as improper or excessive. The cup is simple clay. You lift it. The wine is light, slightly sour and cooling. Around you, the morning has become full daylight. The market is now at its strongest. A man selling onions argues with a cook. A potter delivers a set of cups to a household servant. A citizen reads a notice. A philosopher asks a question that annoys a confident young speaker. A group of boys follows their teacher. A woman sends an enslaved servant back to inspect the price of oil again. A foreign trader waits for someone who can translate a contract. Two dogs sleep beneath a cart until the cart begins to move. Then they look offended, as if the city has disturbed them personally. The life of Athens is not one story. It is hundreds of small stories crossing in the same space. A messenger arrives from the harbor road. Dust covers his legs. People turn toward him. News from the Piraeus always matters. Ships bring grain, military reports, travelers, goods, letters, rumors, and fear. Athens depends upon the sea. The long walls connect the city to its port, making the road to Piraeus one of the most important arteries in the Athenian world. A delay in grain shipments can unsettle the people. A naval victory can lift the city. A defeat can darken every conversation. The messenger speaks first to an official. Others try to hear. The words are not immediately clear. The crowd forms quickly. Curiosity is one of the fastest-moving forces in Athens. After a few moments, the tension eases. No disaster. Only a ship expected later than planned. Several people complain anyway. Athenians do not require catastrophe in order to debate. The messenger drinks water. The market returns to itself. Still, the brief gathering has revealed something important. Every road into Athens carries more than travelers. It carries uncertainty. You rise and begin walking toward the road that leads from the Agora toward the Pnyx. The path climbs gradually. Behind you, the market remains loud. Ahead, the noise changes into a lower murmur as citizens make their way toward public discussion. A man beside you adjusts his cloak and practices the beginning of a speech. He whispers the opening line, rejects it, tries another. His friend tells him the first was better. He disagrees. The friend shrugs. The speech may never be delivered, but he prepares as if it will be. This too is Athens, a city where a man may wake expecting only to buy oil, and end the morning listening to a debate about war. The path rises above the Agora. You turn and look back. The Acropolis stands to one side, bright beneath the sun. The market lies below, restless and colorful. Beyond the rooftops, the road stretches toward Piraeus and the sea. The city's life gathers between these points. The sacred hill, the speaking crowd, the working market, the distant harbor. Athens is not large compared with the empires of the East. Its streets are dusty, its homes often plain, its politics tense, its inequalities deep, its future uncertain. Yet within this small, crowded, difficult city, people are shaping questions that will echo far beyond their own lifetimes. What is justice? Who should rule? What is courage? What does the city owe its citizens? What does a citizen owe the city? Can beauty serve power? Can speech guide truth? Can a crowd become wise? No one in the Agora can answer all of these questions. Most are too busy buying fish, repairing sandals, carrying water, preparing lawsuits, and arguing over oil. But the questions are already present, hidden inside ordinary life. You continue toward the hill. The morning heat begins to rise from the stones. Olive trees cast small pools of shade. Voices gather ahead. The assembly, or perhaps another public meeting, is beginning. Behind you, the agora continues speaking in many smaller voices. Ahead, Athens prepares to speak as a city. The afternoon road opens before you. Behind you, Athens remains bright beneath the sun. The Acropolis rises above the city like a pale stone crown. The agora continues to murmur with trade, argument, and ordinary movement. The Pnyx lies quiet after the morning's speeches. The theater waits below the sacred hill. The gymnasium settles into shade. But ahead, the road leads toward the sea, toward Piraeus. Athens may speak in the agora, but it survives through its harbor. The city's fields cannot always feed everyone within its walls. The rocky land of Attica gives olives, grapes, figs, goats, sheep, and barley. But Athens looks beyond its own hills for much of what it needs. Grain must arrive by ship. Timber must be brought from other lands. Metals, pottery, wine, slaves, luxury goods, stories, soldiers, letters, and rumors all move along the roads between the city and the port. To walk toward Piraeus is to walk along one of the most important lifelines in the Greek world. The road is busy. Merchants move in groups. Servants carry bundles. Pack animals step slowly beneath loads. A cart creaks under amphorae sealed with clay and cloth. Two men guide a donkey carrying baskets of empty jars. A sailor walks barefoot with sandals tied to his belt. A woman with a covered basket pauses in the shade of an olive tree before continuing. Dust rises around everyone. The sun presses against the road. From time to time, a breeze comes from the direction of the sea. It carries the faintest scent of salt. Not strong yet, only a promise. You pass between sections of defensive walls. The long walls connect Athens to its port, protecting the road to Piraeus and allowing the city to reach the sea even in times of war. They are not beautiful like the temples above the Acropolis. They are practical, long, stone, serious. Their purpose is survival. A wall speaks a different language from a temple. A temple says, "Remember the gods. Remember beauty. Remember glory." A wall says, "Danger exists. Prepare. Hold the road. Protect the grain." Several guards stand near a gate section where traffic narrows. They watch the movement of people and goods. One stops a cart and asks questions. What is being carried? Where did it come from? Who owns it? The driver answers with the tired patience of someone who has already answered the same questions more than once. The guard lifts a covering. Inside are clay amphorae. Perhaps wine. Perhaps oil. Perhaps something less honestly described. A seal is inspected. The cart is allowed to continue. War makes cities cautious. Even ordinary trade must pass beneath suspicion. You continue along the road. To your left, fields stretch toward low hills. Olive trees grow from the dry soil, their leaves silver green in the light. The trunks twist as if shaped by wind and time. A farmer works near a small boundary wall, repairing a gap where animals have pushed through. He pauses to watch the road. Every person passing carries some part of the wider world. News from the city. News from the harbor. Prices. Rumors. Possibilities. A farmer who never sails may still depend upon ships. If grain arrives safely, city prices remain steadier. If ships are delayed, everyone feels the tension. The farmer returns to his wall. A stone is placed. Then another. Work close to the ground continues, while empires argue beyond the horizon. A little farther on, a group of men rests beneath a fig tree. Their clothing suggests they have come from the countryside. They carry produce toward the port or city markets. One has baskets of onions, another dried figs, a third small bundles of herbs. Their animals stand nearby, heads lowered. One man pours water from a skin into a shallow bowl. The donkey drinks slowly. The men speak about the road, the price of fodder, a rumor from the harbor, a family that has moved inside the walls because of the war. The conversation becomes quieter at that point. Many people in Attica have felt the disruption of conflict. Homes outside the city may be abandoned during campaigns. Fields may go untended. Rural families crowded within Athens can find city life difficult, noisy, expensive, and unhealthy. The great city offers protection, but not always comfort. One man looks back toward the fields. He says nothing. Perhaps he is thinking of land he cannot safely work. Perhaps of a house standing empty. The road continues. You walk on. As the afternoon passes, the smell of the sea becomes clearer. Zold, tar, wet rope, vershi, smoke. The sound changes too. The road begins to carry echoes from the port. Hammers striking wood. Voices calling across water. Animals shifting near warehouses. The creak of ropes. The slap of waves against hulls. Then Piraeus appears. Not all at once. First you see masts. Thin dark lines rising beyond walls and rooftops. Then the tops of warehouses. Then gulls circling above the harbor. Then a sudden opening where water catches the sun. The port is alive. Piraeus is not merely an attachment to Athens. It is a world of its own. A place of sailors, shipwrights, merchants, foreigners, dockworkers, soldiers, fishermen, innkeepers, money changers, warehouse keepers, and officials watching the movement of goods. Several harbors form the port complex. Some areas serve warships. Others handle merchant vessels. The city's naval power rests here. So does much of its hunger and wealth. You enter through a busy street leading down toward the water. The buildings are practical. Warehouses, workshops, lodgings, taverns, shops selling rope, sailcloth, fish, oil, tools, and provisions for voyages. The air is louder than in Athens, less philosophical, more urgent. At the quays, ships must be loaded before winds change. Cargo must be counted. Sailors must be found. Repairs must be finished. A harbor does not wait politely. It pulls everyone into motion. A merchant vessel rests beside the quay. Its hull is rounded and deep, designed to carry cargo rather than speed. Men unload amphorae using ropes and wooden supports. Each jar is heavy. Some contain wine, others oil, others perhaps salted fish or other goods. The amphorae are marked so their origin and contents can be known. A scribe records the delivery on a wax tablet. He repeats the number aloud. One worker says the count is wrong. The scribe looks again. A jar remains hidden behind stacked rope. The number is corrected. A small mistake at the key can become a larger argument in the warehouse. Better to settle it while everyone is still present. Nearby, a porter lifts a sack of grain. The weight bends him forward. He carries it across a wooden plank from ship to land. Another man waits behind him. Then another. Grain is among the most important cargoes that enters Piraeus. It may come from the Black Sea region, Egypt, Sicily, or other grain-producing areas depending on trade, politics, and war. A city that depends on imported grain must care deeply about ships and sea routes. Bread in Athens begins far away. In fields most citizens will never see. In ships they will never sail. In decisions made by merchants, sailors, allies, and enemies. The sack is lowered onto a cart. Dust rises from the woven material. The porter straightens his back. Only briefly. The next sack is waiting. A harbor official moves between unloading crews. He checks seals, asks questions, confirms ownership. Taxes, fees, and regulations follow goods as surely as ropes and carts. A merchant argues that one shipment has already been assessed. The official asks for proof. The merchant calls to a clerk. The clerk searches through tablets and folded documents. For a moment, the entire unloading process seems to pause around paperwork. Then the record is found. The official examines it, nods. The cargo continues moving. Trade is physical labor and written memory. Without records, every arrival would become a dispute. You walk along the quay. Fishing boats occupy a smaller section of the harbor. Their crews work closer to the water, repairing nets and sorting catch. A fisherman sits on an overturned basket, mending a tear in his net with practiced fingers. Beside him, a boy cleans small fish and places them into a shallow tray. The smell is sharp. Gulls watch from posts. One bird attempts to steal from a basket. The boy shouts and throws a scrap of rope. The gull lifts away with no shame. An older fisherman laughs. The boy does not. The fish must be taken quickly to market. Some will remain in Piraeus. Some will travel toward Athens. Freshness loses value with every hour of heat. A woman purchases several small fish directly from the boat. She knows the seller. There is little negotiation. Trust shortens the exchange. At the next boat, a cook from a tavern argues fiercely over price. Trust has not shortened anything there. You continue toward the naval harbor. The atmosphere changes. Merchant disorder gives way to military purpose. Here, the triremes of Athens are maintained. Long, narrow warships built for speed and maneuver. Their power comes from rows of oarsmen working in coordinated rhythm. The ship itself is a machine of wood, rope, bronze, skill, and human bodies. A trireme at rest may appear still, but everything about it suggests motion. Its long hull, its oar ports, its ram at the front, its low, lane shape. A shipwright inspects one vessel pulled partly from the water. Several workers scrape the hull. Others repair damaged planks. A smell of pine, pitch, sweat, and seawater fills the air. Wood must be protected from rot. Joints must remain tight. Oars must be shaped evenly. A single weak part can matter in battle. The shipwright kneels beside a seam. He runs his hand along it, calls for more pitch. A worker brings a heated mixture. It is pressed carefully into the gap. The work is uncomfortable beneath the sun. Necessary. Athens speaks proudly of naval victories. But victory begins with maintenance. Another group of men practices oar timing inside a training frame near the water. A supervisor calls rhythm. The oars rise and fall, not in real battle speed. Slowly, carefully, again, again. New rowers must learn to move as one body. A single strong man matters less than hundreds moving together. Too early and the rhythm breaks. Too late and the water catches badly. The sea punishes poor timing. The supervisor stops them, corrects one row. The practice begins again. Some rowers are poorer citizens. The Navy gives them importance within the democracy because Athens needs their bodies and skill. Political power and naval power are connected. A city that depends on rowers cannot entirely ignore the men who pull the oars. Yet hard service remains hard service. Hands blister, backs ache. Fear travels with every voyage toward battle. A young rower flexes his fingers after practice stops. The man beside him shows how to wrap cloth around the palm. Experience moves quietly between them. Nearby, an officer examines a list of crew assignments. Names are called. A few men answer immediately. One is absent. Another says he has seen him near the rope sellers. A messenger is sent. The ship cannot leave with missing men. War turns absence into a public matter. You leave the naval area and enter a street of ship suppliers. Rope makers twist fibers into thick lines. Sail makers repair torn cloth. Carpenters shape replacement oars. Metalworkers prepare fittings. A storehouse contains spare equipment stacked in careful order. The harbor depends upon specialized trades. Every voyage requires more than a ship. It requires rope that will not break, sails that will hold wind, jars that will not leak, food that will keep, water containers, tools, spare parts, men who know how to use them. A rope maker stands beside a long stretch of fiber laid across the ground. Two assistants walk backward, twisting strands under tension. The rope forms slowly. A customer checks its thickness. The rope maker explains which kind is better for mooring, which for cargo, which for sails. To someone unfamiliar, rope is rope. To a sailor, each line has a purpose. The wrong rope in the wrong place can fail at the worst moment. A sail maker sits beneath a shaded awning, sewing a long tier. His needle is thick. His hands rough. The cloth smells of salt and old wind. A ship captain watches anxiously. He wants the sail repaired before morning. The sail maker says it can be done, if no one interrupts him. The captain stops speaking. Wisdom sometimes means silence. Farther along, a carpenter shapes an oar. He checks the balance by lifting it at different points. An oar must feel right in the hand. Too heavy and it tires the rower. Too weak and it may break. Too uneven and the rhythm suffers. The carpenter shaves a thin curl of wood from the blade. Then another. He closes one eye and looks along its length. The curve is nearly right. Not yet. He continues. You pass into a tavern street near the waterfront. The sound becomes rougher. Sailors drink, eat, bargain, sing, complain, and exaggerate. A man claims to have seen a wave taller than a temple. Another says the temple must have been very small. Laughter follows. A cook carries bowls of stew to a table of dockworkers. The meal is thick with lentils, onions, herbs, and perhaps pieces of fish. Bread is passed from hand to hand. Wine is mixed with water in a large vessel. No one here drinks like a symposium poet. They drink like men who have been hauling cargo since dawn. A foreign merchant sits with a translator. He speaks slowly while the translator explains terms to an Athenian buyer. The goods involve timber, perhaps for ships, perhaps for construction. The merchant wants payment partly now and partly after delivery. The buyer wants to inspect quality first. The translator's work is delicate. A careless word may cost money. A tone too sharp may insult. He listens, chooses his phrases, repeats, clarifies. Business across languages requires patience. At another table, a sailor shows a small object brought from a distant port. A carved charm, a shell, a coin, a tiny bottle of perfume. The others pass it around. Each person asks where it came from. The sailor gives a different version each time. Perhaps he enjoys the performance. Perhaps he has forgotten the truth. Harbors collect stories as easily as goods. Not all of them are accurate. All of them travel. You leave the tavern and walk toward a warehouse district. Large doors stand open. Inside, goods are stacked by type and owner. Amphorae, sacks, bundles of wool, timber beams, baskets, crates. Some items are marked with symbols, others tied with tags. A warehouse keeper sits near the entrance recording movements. He must know what enters, what leaves, who owns it, what fees are due, and whether anything has been damaged. His work is less dramatic than a sailor's voyage. But without it, the harbor becomes confusion. Two workers carry an amphora that has begun to leak. The smell reveals wine. The keeper frowns. Leaking goods create immediate decisions. Can it be transferred to another vessel? Is the loss small? Who is responsible? The workers place it near a repair area. A clerk notes the problem. The owner will not be pleased. A cat moves between the amphorae, hunting for mice. The warehouse keeper allows it. Grain attracts pests. A useful cat earns its place. In the rear of the warehouse, an enslaved worker sweeps spilled grain into a pile. Another repairs a torn sack. Their labor is constant and nearly invisible within the larger story of trade. Every ship unloading, every warehouse filling, every city eating depends partly upon people whose names rarely appear in public honor. The harbor is a place of opportunity for some, and hard compulsion for others. You continue toward a quieter pier where travelers wait for passage. A family sits beneath a cloth canopy with bundles tied beside them. They may be leaving Athens, or arriving and resting before entering the city. A child sleeps with his head on a folded cloak. An older woman watches the water. Her expression is difficult to read. Travel by sea can be faster than land, but never entirely safe. Weather changes. Pirates exist. Ships leak. Captains make mistakes. Wars interrupt routes. Every departure contains uncertainty. A priest moves along the pier, carrying small ritual objects. A captain has requested a prayer or offering before departure. The crew gathers briefly. No one laughs now. Sailors may joke loudly in taverns, but before the sea, reverence is natural. The offering is made. Words are spoken to the gods. The captain looks toward the sky. The wind is not perfect, but it may be enough. The ship will lave with the evening tide or the morning wind. Nearby, a woman embraces a man preparing to board. The embrace is brief. Public emotion has limits, but her hand remains on his sleeve for a moment after they separate. He says something softly. She nods. He steps onto the plank. She watches until another worker blocks her view. The sea connects cities and separates families. You walk farther around the harbor, where the water opens into a wider basin. The light is changing. The harsh white of afternoon begins to soften. Ships cast longer reflections. Masts sway gently. Ropes knock against wood. Gulls circle above the quays. The sound of hammers continues but grows less urgent. A group of shipwrights finishes work on a hull and begins covering tools. One man washes pitch from his hands with oil and sand. Another stretches his back and groans. The ship will not be finished today. Ships rarely obey human impatience. They are built through long sequences of cutting, shaping, joining, sealing, testing, and repairing. A mistake hidden inside the hull may reveal itself only at sea. That knowledge makes every careful worker important. You stand beside the water. From here, you can see why Athens looks outward. The sea is not empty. It is a road without paving stones. Dangerous, changing, yet full of possibility. A ship leaving Piraeus may carry pottery from the Kerameikos, olive oil from Attica, silver, wine, letters, soldiers, officials, or ambassadors. A ship arriving may bring grain, timber, slaves, luxury goods, news, disease, ideas, or fear. The same water that gives Athens wealth can also bring disaster. The city lives with that truth every day. A trireme moves slowly across part of the harbor. Its oars rise and fall in rhythm. Not full speed. A controlled movement. Training or repositioning. The hull cuts the water cleanly. A supervisor calls the beat. The oars enter. Pull. Lift. Return. The sound is strangely calming from a distance. Wood. Water. Voice. Wood. Water. Voice. The ship turns. Sunlight flashes along its side. For a moment, naval power becomes almost beautiful. Then you remember what such ships are made to do. Beauty and danger often share the same shape. The afternoon begins leaning toward evening. Workers who started before sunrise now move more slowly. Dockside sellers prepare simple food for sailors and porters. Grain carts begin the journey back toward Athens. Messages are sealed. Cargo doors are locked. Animals are watered. A harbor official speaks with guards about night watch assignments. The port does not sleep completely. Ships arrive at strange hours. Theft is possible. Fire is always dangerous near warehouses, rope, sailcloth, oil, and wood. Night does not end responsibility. At the edge of the quay, a young boy sits with a small wax tablet. He is practicing letters while waiting for his father. The letters are uneven. The stylus presses too hard in some places and too lightly in others. He erases the wax with the flat end and tries again. Beside him, the harbor moves with enormous complexity. Ships, taxes, war, trade, foreign languages, cargo, prayer, labor, fear, ambition. But the boy's whole attention is on one line of letters. Learning begins in small spaces, even in the shadow of great systems. His father arrives carrying a coil of rope. The boy looks up. The father checks the tablet, corrects one letter with his thumb, then nods. The boy smiles. They leave together. You begin walking back toward the road where the long walls stretch toward Athens. The city is far enough that its monuments appear softened by distance. The Acropolis is visible above the haze. The Parthenon catches the late sun. From Piraeus, Athens looks almost serene. A sacred city on a hill. A place of temples and speeches. But the harbor has shown you the other side of that serenity. The work required to keep it alive. the grain hauled in sacks, the ships repaired under heat, the rowers training until their hands hurt, the merchants arguing over seals, the families waiting by water, the enslaved workers sweeping warehouses, the translators helping trade across languages, the sailors watching the wind. Athens is not only a city of ideas, it is a city of supply. And supply is never effortless. You pause before leaving the harbor. The sun lowers behind masts and rigging. The water turns bronze. A fisherman throws one last net. A merchant ship prepares to depart. A gull lands upon a post and folds its wings. The breeze from the sea is cooler now. It touches your face and carries with it the wide, uncertain world beyond Attica. Soon, evening will return you toward Athens. Back through the road between the walls. Back toward lamps, courtyards, meals, music, and night voices beneath the Acropolis. The day that began in silence before sunrise is moving toward its final hours. And the city, still restless, is preparing for evening. The path toward the Pnyx rises slowly above the agora. Behind you, the market continues its restless morning rhythm. Sellers call out prices. Citizens argue beneath the stowers. Servants move quickly between stalls. A donkey protests somewhere near the fish market. But with each step uphill, the sound begins to change. The market does not disappear. It softens. Its many voices become one distant murmur below. Ahead, another kind of gathering is forming. Men climb the slope in small groups. Some walk quickly, as though afraid of arriving late. Others move at an easy pace, speaking with friends as they go. A few remain silent, already thinking about the matter to be discussed. The stones beneath your feet are warm now. The morning sun has risen above the city. Olive trees cast narrow shadows across the dusty path. From this hillside, Athens appears below you in layers. The agora, the houses, the narrow streets, the sacred rock of the Acropolis, and beyond the city, faint in the distance, the road stretching toward Piraeus and the sea. The Pnyx is not a palace. It is not a temple. It is not richly decorated. Its power comes from people gathering in the open air. Here, male citizens of Athens may listen, argue, and vote on matters affecting the city. War, money, ships, alliances, public works, the behavior of officials, the future of the polis. A city can be shaped by walls and temples, but here it is shaped by voices. You reach the meeting place. The ground is rough and open. A speaker's platform faces the crowd. There are no soft seats, no roof to protect everyone from the sun, no polished marble hall designed to make government comfortable. Citizens stand, sit on the ground, lean on staffs, or shift their weight from one foot to the other. Democracy here is physical. Dust on sandals, heat on the neck, thirst, noise, impatience. The work of self-government is not always elegant. A group of older citizens stands near the front. They have attended many such meetings. They know when a speaker is building toward a strong argument, and when he is only filling the air. A younger man nearby watches them carefully. He wants to understand when to cheer, when to laugh, when to remain still. Public life is learned by being present. A herald calls for attention. The crowd slowly quiets. Not completely. Some men finish their conversations. Others turn reluctantly. A few continue speaking until someone beside them tells them to stop. The official business begins. A matter concerning the city's fleet is introduced. Athens depends upon its ships. The navy protects trade, carries soldiers, connects the city to allies, and keeps grain routes open. Without the sea, Athens would be far more vulnerable. The long walls lead from the city toward Piraeus, binding Athens to its harbor like an artery. The speaker reminds the citizens of this. His voice rises. The ships are not merely wood and bronze. They are security, food, power, freedom. He says the city must maintain them properly. Oars must be ready, crews paid, harbor works inspected, allied contributions collected. He speaks with confidence. Some men nod. Others look less convinced. Naval power costs money, and money must come from somewhere. A second speaker rises. He agrees that the fleet is essential, but warns that the burden is growing heavy. Citizens have families. Farmers have fields neglected by war. Merchants worry about uncertainty. The city cannot demand endlessly and expect no strain. His tone is calmer than the first speaker. He does not reject naval strength. He asks how much sacrifice can be carried before the body of the city weakens. The crowd listens, not quietly. A few call out. Someone laughs. Another man shouts that weakness invites enemies. The speaker waits. He has expected interruptions. A good public speaker in Athens must not be fragile. He continues. A third man rises. He is more forceful. He speaks of Sparta, of danger, of the need for courage. He says Athens must not act like a city afraid of its own greatness. The crowd reacts strongly. Some cheer, some mutter. His words are sharp and polished, perhaps too polished. An older citizen beside you whispers that the man loves the sound of his own voice. Another replies that sometimes such men are useful. A city at war has little room for sleepy speeches. The debate continues. No single voice owns the space. The assembly is not peaceful in the way a garden is peaceful. It is alive with disagreement, and disagreement can be tiring. Yet within it lies something unusual. Citizens are expected to listen, to judge, to compare arguments, to decide. The system is imperfect. Women are excluded. Enslaved people are excluded. Foreign residents are excluded. Even among citizens, wealth, confidence, education, and reputation shape who is heard most easily. But still, the sight of ordinary male citizens gathered to decide public matters is powerful. Athens does not hide politics behind palace doors. It brings politics into the open air. A clerk records decisions. Officials manage procedure. Speakers step forward and withdraw. The crowd shifts as the sun climbs higher. A man wipes sweat from his forehead. Another drinks from a small flask. Someone complains that the speaker is repeating himself. Another says repetition is necessary when citizens do not listen the first time. Eventually, a vote is called. Hands rise. Not all at exactly once. Some quickly, some slowly. A few men look around before choosing. The result is judged. The decision passes. Just like that, a public argument becomes civic action. The matter is not finished in reality. Ships must still be repaired. Money collected. Orders sent. Workers hired. But the city has spoken. And now others must turn that speech into labor. You look back toward Athens below. The agora still moves. Smoke rises from cooking fires. The Acropolis stands beyond it, bright and still. The assembly begins to address another matter, but your path now leads toward the sacred hill. You leave the Pnyx slowly. The voices of citizens remain behind you, rising, falling, overlapping with the wind. The road descends toward the city and then turns toward the Acropolis. The hill grows larger with every step. It dominates Athens not through height alone, but through meaning. Even from distant streets, the Acropolis reminds the city of its goddess, its victories, its ambitions, and its identity. In the year 430 BC, the Parthenon already crowns the sacred rock. Its columns stand with calm strength against the sky. The building is new enough that many Athenians remember its construction. They remember workers carrying stone, sculptors carving figures, painters adding color, officials managing accounts, critics complaining about cost, supporters praising the glory it would bring. A monument always looks inevitable after it is finished. While being built, it is a decision. You approach the lower paths. Pilgrims, citizens, priests, visitors, and workers move around you. Some carry offerings, small cakes, wreaths, oil, incense, a folded garment, a clay figurine. Others have come simply to look, to pray, to accompany someone, to perform a duty expected by family or city. The path is not silent. Sandals scrape stone. Voices echo. Goats bleat somewhere below. A priest speaks with an assistant about the timing of a ritual. A young boy asks his father why the goddess needs gifts when she already protects the city. The father gives an answer that satisfies neither philosophy nor childhood curiosity. The boy asks another question immediately. The father sighs. The sacred path continues upward. As you climb, the view behind you widens. Athens spreads across the plain. The agora appears smaller now. The Pnyx lies to the west. The city walls curve through the landscape. Farther away, the route to Piraeus runs toward the sea. This is a city of stone and speech, but also a city tied to water. Ships bring grain, wealth, danger, and news. The temples above are built from the confidence of a city whose power reaches beyond its own fields. You pass through the monumental gateway of the Acropolis. The stone is pale under the sun. The air feels brighter here, more exposed. Below, the streets were close and dusty. Here, the sky opens. Wind crosses the sacred rock. The Parthenon rises ahead. Its columns are not simply straight lines. They contain subtle curves and adjustments that make the building feel alive, balanced, and almost breathing in the light. The stone appears white from a distance, but up close, surfaces hold traces of color, shadow, tool marks, and human touch. Temples in ancient Athens are not plain white ruins. They are painted, decorated, filled with offerings, alive with ritual. The Parthenon is dedicated to Athene Parthenos. Athene, the virgin goddess, protector of the city. Inside the temple stands a great statue of Athene, made from precious materials and surrounded by reverence, wealth, and political meaning. The goddess is not only a figure of worship. She is the symbol through which Athens understands itself. Wisdom, warcraft, skill, protection, order. The city tells its story through her. A priestess and several attendants pass nearby. They carry objects prepared for ritual use. Their movements are deliberate. Sacred work requires precision. A mistake may not be practical alone, but spiritual. Ritual creates order between human beings and the divine. It repeats gestures inherited from those who came before. A young assistant carries a basket. She looks serious, aware that even small tasks matter here. You stand near the temple and look across the sculpted decoration. Figures of gods, heroes, horses, processions, struggles, and myths surround the building. Many citizens understand these stories not as distant entertainment, but as part of their shared identity. Myth explains origins, warns against arrogance, honors divine power, justifies civic pride. Athens tells itself who it is through stone. Nearby, a group of visitors from another Greek city studies the temple. One admires the craftsmanship openly. Another remains more reserved, perhaps impressed, perhaps jealous. The glory of Athens is not neutral. Its monuments inspire wonder, but also resentment. The same empire that supports temples also demands tribute. Beauty can be a form of power. Athenians know this. So do their allies. So do their enemies. You move toward an area where older sacred places and smaller shrines occupy the rock. The Acropolis is not a single building. It is a layered, sacred landscape. Some places preserve memories older than the new monuments. The city's religious life does not erase the past. It builds upon it. A man places a small offering near a shrine. He does not stay long. Perhaps he is asking for protection before a journey. Perhaps giving thanks for a child's recovery. Perhaps fulfilling a promise made in fear. Public religion may involve festivals and processions, but much devotion is personal. A small object, a brief prayer, a hand touching stone, a moment of silence. Far below, the city continues its daily business. Up here, the same people appear in a different relationship to the world. Citizen, merchant, father, soldier, mother, servant. All may approach the gods, though not all with the same status or visibility. A young girl walks beside an older woman carrying a folded cloth. They move toward an attendant near one of the sacred buildings. The cloth may be connected to a dedication, household vow, or preparation for a festival. Textiles hold importance in Greek religious life. Women's labor, often hidden inside homes, can become visible in ritual offerings. A garment woven in a courtyard may one day be carried in procession. Work done quietly can become sacred display. The older woman corrects the girl's grip. The cloth must not touch the ground. The girl adjusts it carefully. Her face shows concentration. She is learning how the household and the city meet before the gods. You walk to the edge of the Acropolis. The view is wide and almost still. The agora lies below like a moving pattern. Tiny figures cross the square. Smoke rises from cooking fires. The Pnyx, where citizens argued minutes before, now looks quiet from above. Theater spaces lie on the southern slope, where audiences gather during festivals to watch tragedies and comedies. Beyond the walls, fields and roads stretch across Attica. Beyond them, the sea glimmers faintly. The city appears complete from here. But you know it is not complete. No city is. Every roof below contains unfinished work. Every family carries worries. Every public decision creates consequences. Every monument casts a shadow as well as beauty. Athens shines, But it is not simple. You descend slightly along the southern slope. Here, the world of ritual begins to meet the world of performance. The theater of Dionysus lies below the Acropolis, connected with festivals honoring the god Dionysus. In this space, citizens gather to watch plays that explore grief, pride, justice, family, war, laughter, and the dangerous power of human choices. The theater is quiet now. Empty. The stone seating and performance area wait beneath the sun. But during a festival, this place becomes a sea of bodies and voices. Thousands may gather. Citizens, visitors, and others depending on custom and occasion. The city watches itself through stories. A tragedy may show a king destroyed by arrogance, a mother broken by grief, a hero trapped by fate, a family cursed by violence. A comedy may mock public figures, philosophers, generals, foolish citizens, and the absurdity of politics itself. Athens gives speech to actors wearing masks, so that truths difficult to speak directly can be heard as story. A few workers are present now. One repairs a wooden element used in staging. Another moves storage baskets. A musician tests a note on a reed instrument. The sound rises briefly and disappears into the open air. A playwright or assistant speaks with two men near the side. They gesture toward the performance space, perhaps planning entrances, choral movement, props, timing. Theater requires poetry, but also carpentry, music, memory, training, and organization. A chorus does not move beautifully by accident. It practices again and again. You sit for a moment on a stone seat. The Acropolis rises above you. The city lies below. The empty theater feels like a place between worlds. Here, myth becomes public experience. Here, the audience can weep for imaginary suffering while thinking of real war. Here, laughter can challenge the powerful. Here, the city can ask what kind of people it is becoming. The seat is warm from the sun. A breeze passes across the slope. For a moment, Athens feels quiet. Then a hammer sounds nearby. Work continues. Even sacred and artistic spaces need repair. You rise and follow a path away from the theater. The road leads toward a gymnasium district where young men train their bodies and older men gather for conversation. Athens values physical discipline as part of education and citizenship. Running, wrestling, javelin, discus, music, poetry, memory, speech. A citizen is expected to prepare both body and voice for public life. But before reaching the gymnasium, you pass several small workshops connected with festival life. Mask makers, costume workers, carpenters, musicians repairing instruments. A man shapes a theatrical mask from linen, plaster, or another prepared material. Its mouth is open, its expression exaggerated. From close range, the face looks strange, perhaps even unsettling. But from a distance, before thousands of spectators, its emotion must be clear. Anger, grief, fear, laughter, old age, youth, royal dignity, foolishness. The mask must speak before the actor says a word. An apprentice paints details around the eyes. The master stops him. The line is too delicate. No one in the upper rows will see it. The apprentice thickens the mark. The face changes. Theater teaches scale. What is beautiful in the hand may disappear in the crowd. Nearby, a woman and a servant carry dyed cloth toward a workshop. Costumes require fabric. Households, craftsmen, and suppliers all contribute to public performance. Again, work that begins quietly in domestic or commercial spaces enters the civic world. Athens is woven together by such hidden connections. The assembly depends upon scribes and heralds. The temples upon quarry workers and weavers. The theatre upon carpenters and mask makers. The market upon farmers, sailors, and enslaved labor. No public achievement stands alone. You continue toward the gymnasium. The space is more open. Dust rises where young men practice wrestling. Their bodies are oiled. An older trainer watches closely. Two youths grip each other's shoulders. One attempts a throw. The other resists. Their feet slide in the dust. The trainer interrupts. The position is wrong. He demonstrates. Weight lower. Grip firmer. Wait for the opponent to move. Strength without timing wastes itself. The youths begin again. A runner passes along a track, breathing steadily. Another practices with a discus, rotating carefully before release. The object flies a short distance and lands in the dust. The thrower looks dissatisfied. His companion laughs. The trainer does not. He tells him to retrieve it and try again. Athletic training in Athens is not only for competition. It prepares citizens for war, discipline, endurance, and the ideal of a balanced body. But the gymnasium is also a place of conversation. Under shaded areas, older men speak while watching the youths. Some discuss poetry, others politics. A philosopher speaks with a small circle of listeners. He asks whether courage is the same thing as not fearing danger. One young man says yes. Another says courage is acting rightly despite fear. The philosopher asks what rightly means. The conversation begins to twist. A man who came to watch wrestling now finds himself wondering about the nature of virtue. This is Athens again, a place where ordinary spaces become stages for questions. A slave attendant carries oil and towels for one of the young men. He waits while others discuss freedom and excellence. His presence is quiet, almost invisible to them. Yet it reminds you that the ideals spoken here are not shared equally. The city can produce great questions while failing to apply them to everyone within reach. History does not ask you to admire blindly. It asks you to see clearly. You leave the gymnasium as the afternoon begins. The light has changed. Morning brightness has softened into a warmer glow. People move more slowly now. The heat of the day presses upon the streets. Some shops remain open. Others pause. Children retreat into shade. Dogs sleep beneath walls. Water cellars become busier. A man fans himself with the edge of his cloak and complains that the gods have placed the sun too close to Athens. His friend replies that he complains just as much in winter. They both laugh. You return toward the lower city. A household courtyard stands open as you pass. Inside, women work at a loom. The frame is upright. Weighted threads hang vertically. One woman passes the weft through with practiced movement. Another adjusts the tension. A younger girl watches, learning the pattern. Textile work is one of the great labors of the ancient household. Clothing, blankets, coverings, and ritual textiles require time, skill, and patience. The finished cloth may appear simple, but every thread represents repeated motion. The older woman notices a mistake in the pattern. She stops, removes a small section, corrects it, continues. The girl looks discouraged. The woman tells her something gently. Perhaps that everyone makes mistakes. Perhaps that cloth remembers carelessness. Perhaps both. In another corner, an enslaved woman grinds grain. The stone turns heavily. Again, again, again. The sound is low and constant. The courtyard contains both instruction and exhaustion. Domestic life is not a soft background to public Athens. It is one of the foundations upon which public Athens stands. A child runs across the courtyard holding a toy horse made of clay. He is called back before he knocks over a basket of wool. He stops just in time. The loom continues. The grinding stone continues. The household day continues. You walk onward through streets where the afternoon meal is being prepared. The smells are simple. Bread warmed again near a fire. Lentils, onions, garlic, olives, fish if the household could afford it. Wine mixed with water. Cheese, figs, herbs. A man returns briefly from the agora, carrying news more than food. He tells the household about the debate on the Pnyx. He speaks with confidence, shaping the story so that his own opinion appears wiser than it may have sounded in the crowd. The women listen while continuing their work. One asks a practical question about the cost of the decision. He pauses. He had not considered that part carefully. Public politics enters the household and becomes domestic concern. Ships require money. Money affects grain. Grain affects bread. Bread affects everyone. You continue toward a quieter street near several small shrines. The heat has made the city slower. A priest rests beneath shade. A boy pours water over the stones near an altar. A woman leaves a small offering. No festival crowd. No music. No procession. Just a small act of devotion performed during an ordinary day. Athens honors many gods and heroes. Each household may have its own practices. Each neighborhood its own sacred habits. The grand temples on the Acropolis are only the most visible part of a religious world spread through every street. A crossroads, a doorway, a courtyard, a family hearth, a roadside stone. The sacred is not confined to the high places. It touches the daily path. Farther along, an elderly man sits beside his doorway, carving a small piece of wood. He watches people pass. When a neighbor greets him, he remembers the name of her father, then her grandfather. Memory lives in people like him. He has seen festivals, funerals, political changes, building projects, and war scares. He remembers when certain houses belonged to other families. When a shop was once a stable. When a young man, now famous for speeches, was once punished by a teacher for laziness. The city's official records preserve some things. Old people preserve others. A boy asks him whether the Parthenon looked different when it was new. The old man laughs. "It is still new," he says. The boy looks toward the Acropolis as if trying to imagine a time before it. To children, every great building seems eternal. To elders, even stone is recent. You make your way back toward a higher street where the Acropolis can be seen between houses. The afternoon sun strikes the columns. They glow warmly. Below them, Athens continues its complicated life. The assembly has ended or paused. The agora still trades. The law courts still hear voices. The theater waits for its festival crowds. The gymnasium echoes with training and questions. Households weave, cook, grind, teach, argue, and rest. The city is never only one thing. It is sacred and practical. brilliant and unequal, courageous and fearful, beautiful and dusty, young and already burdened by memory. You stop in the shade and look toward the road leading southwest. Beyond the houses and walls lies Piraeus, the harbor, the ships, the place where Athens meets the sea. Grain ships, war triremes, foreign merchants, sailors, dock workers, shipwrights, travelers, news from islands and distant coasts. The city's heart may speak in the agora, but its lungs breathe through the harbor. Soon the path will lead away from the sacred hill and down toward the long road between Athens and the sea. There another Athens waits, not the Athens of speeches and temples, but the Athens of ropes, sails, timber, salt water, cargo, and men watching the horizon for returning ships. The afternoon light begins to lean westward. You leave the shade. The stones are warm beneath your feet, and the road to Piraeus opens ahead.